Thank you for joining us today. We're going to do an overview of the science of gratitude. What does gratitude have to do with the quality of what we do every day at work? Well, there are many roads that lead to quality, but if you ever checked out the wonderful website www.despair.com, which is where you go to get anti-motivational posters, maybe you've seen this one that says quality. The race for quality has no finish line, so technically it's more like a death march. I see that you met your targets for the quarter. Congratulations. Let me move you into a new building, give you some sicker patients, take away some of your staff, give you a new manager, and introduce some new technology to your unit. Let's see how you do next quarter. We keep on wondering why this is not as much fun as it used to be. Well, we keep pushing the field goal further and further away and wondering why this seems so hard. I want to make it clear that when we're talking about emotions in WISER, when we're talking about positive emotions in particular, like gratitude, we're not asking you to pretend. We're not asking you to say, oh, it's all fine. We're not asking you to look in a mirror and say, I'm good enough and I'm smart enough and gosh darn it, people like me. No, that's a Saturday Night Live skit. That's not real. In fact, telling people to pretend like they're fine when they don't feel fine actually can do harm to them. So we're not asking you to pretend. We are not asking you to put a spin on things. We're asking you instead, through WISER, to take little opportunities to cultivate positive emotion when you can. And that this has a pretty big impact on your well-being now and down the road. In fact, 70 years down the road. For example, one of my favorite studies is the nun study, which in the 1930s they found they had these nuns write essays right before they were indoctrinated into their orders about their life so far. They found that those nuns who wrote essays that were full of more positive emotion, words like happy and joy and eager and I'm looking forward to, they lived a lot longer than nuns that just wrote factual stuff. Not negative, just factual things. And so being able to cultivate positive emotion has a pretty big impact. In fact, in the nun study, they found that those nuns who expressed more positive emotions lived on average a decade longer than their less cheerful peers. In fact, if you break these into quartiles, by age 85, 90% of the top quartile of nuns expressing positive emotion when they were 22, 23 years old, 90% of them were still alive versus only 34% of those nuns in the fourth quartile, the bottom quartile. By age 94, 54% of them were still alive in the first quartile versus only 11% in the fourth quartile. So expressing and cultivating positive emotion can be pretty powerful. We used to just think about negative. It's all about negative emotion, presence or absence of negative. But we learned at the turn of the century, in about the year 2002, that really it's not just negative. It's to the extent to which you cultivate positive emotion that can make a really big difference as well. Now, there are 10 positive emotions. We're going to be talking about one specific one today, but 10 that we can cultivate to get this benefit. There's joy, happiness is, writ large. Gratitude, which is acknowledging in another person that they did something that they didn't have to do, and showing that you see them, that they did that. Serenity, or kind of being at peace with the world around you, being interested or curious about the world around you. Hope springs eternal. You can be feeling despair and at the same time see an opportunity for hope. So even when you're surrounded by negativity, you can have the positive emotion of hope. There's pride, dreaming big, thinking, what else could I accomplish? There's amusement, which is an example of kind of like joy in stereo, like sharing your positive emotion with others. There's inspiration, just feeling like inspired by people, their deeds, what they've done, intellectually, spiritually, kind of in motivational ways. Then there's also awe and wonder, which is one of my favorites. We'll talk about that one in a future module. It could be nature, looking through a microscope or a telescope and just saying, wow, that is amazing. That's awe and wonder. You cultivate a little awe that can go a long way with your resilience. And then love, which is kind of all of the above of these. But today, we are going to be talking about one particular emotion, gratitude, which does not get the attention span really that it deserves, because gratitude, unlike even the other positive emotions, gratitude has kind of a unique ability to push other negative emotion out of your head. So it's like a warm blanket emotion. If you're feeling grateful, if you're feeling genuinely grateful, you can't also simultaneously feel angry at the universe at the same time. If you can turn on the emotion of gratitude, you can take a little bit of a break from envy and anger and resentment and anxiety and other things like that, just by turning on that emotion and just taking a little, just visiting the emotion of gratitude for just a little while. The world's leading expert in the emotion of gratitude is Bob Evans. He's the world's leading researcher in gratitude and in spirituality. He's a neat guy. And he says, look, there's the dictionary definition for gratitude, which is the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for and to return a kindness. But he says, look, the real definition is you need two things to feel grateful. Number one, you have to acknowledge that there are good things out there in the world. And number two, you have to acknowledge that those good things can come to you from outside of yourself, from a higher power, from another person, from Mother Nature, from your dog. This good stuff comes to you from outside of yourself, and you can feel, grateful. And that's what's required for you to feel the emotion of gratitude. Now, he originally did this study, a really cool study in 2003, called Counting Your Blessings versus Your Burdens. It was a journaling study where every day for 21 days, participants would write in a journal what they were thankful for or what they were struggling with in their lives. And lo and behold, at the end of 3 weeks of doing this, people who wrote about what they were thankful for showed higher happiness, lower depression, they were sleeping more, they were sleeping better, they even had better marital satisfaction. Who couldn't use a little bit more marital satisfaction? And the benefits of this were really concentrated by work that Marty Seligman did. So he came along and said, you don't have to just write in a journal kind of ad nauseum about all the things that you're thankful for every night before you go to sleep, but can you focus your gratitude in the form of a letter? Can you visit that emotion very specifically directed toward another person in a way that you can really maximize the benefit for you as the writer and for the person who receives ostensibly this expression of gratitude? So how are you supposed to be grateful? Very important, the most important of all is that you are genuine and authentic in the way you're expressing yourself in this little example of writing a gratitude letter. A lot of research has been done on this. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. The idea is simply not that you have a hidden agenda, well, thank you for this, but also I was really pissed that you did this other thing, but rather, can you in your letter show a genuine authenticity. I really appreciated this for the following reasons, and then say, well, this is what this says about you. We'll give you the instructions for that letter at the end of this video. But if you do it, if you visit the emotion of gratitude, even for just a few minutes, like for 5 to 7 minutes, and then we fast forward 4 to 6 weeks later, you're statistically significantly happier, and you're statistically significantly less depressed. So just by visiting, even briefly, this emotion, it has long-standing effects. You can rinse, wash, and repeat and do this again if you want. The gratitude is a renewable resource like solar power. You can tap into it whenever you need to. So it's sitting there, and the purpose of this module is to show you how easy it is to turn it on and to turn it off and to get that benefit by pushing other kind of negative affect out of your head. Just take a vacation from all that stuff for just a brief moment. I like this quote from Albert Schweitzer. He's a physician who got the Nobel Prize, who said, "At times our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person, and each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted or relighted that flame within us." Now, if you write this letter, what's going to happen, it's interesting, I ask you to please consider writing this letter because if you do, it changes the way you look at your accomplishments in your world. Writing, receiving, and giving one of these letters, it activates the same emotions that you experience following your greatest accomplishments. So your understanding of success expands to include accomplishments that you've previously taken for granted. Even for the recipient of the letter. For example, a grateful school teacher reading a letter from you might think, from 25 years ago, I had no idea that I had this impact on this child, but man, my goodness, this makes me reevaluate how the impact that I've had on other people, the meaning that I get from the role that I've had in other people's lives. It's a powerful lever to pull just to turn it on. The fact that you can do it in just 5 to 7 short minutes is really remarkable. So, if you don't mind, let's try this out. The instructions for gratitude letters are as follows. Think of someone who has done something amazing for you. This person can be alive or no longer with us, but they've contributed to your well-being in a big way. They opened a door for you, they taught you something about yourself or something about the world, and now spend the next 5 to 7 minutes writing a brief note telling this person, this is what you did, this is how it impacted me, and this is what it says about you. The fact that you knew so much about me, that you would do this for me at that point in my life, that just says so much about who you are as a person. Make it about then. Be genuine, be kind, and above all, just be appreciative in your note. Thank you. Get to writing your letter.